Let's mix a record today. Before you start working, take a sip of your iced coffee. We're going to do a hybrid today of analog mixing, digital mixing, and I'm going to show you exactly how I do it. We're even going to use a tape machine. If it's rock and roll, or if it's groove-based music, I like to start with the rhythm section. So we're going to begin with the drums. All the drums are summed to a stereo channel. So rather than split up each drum track on the mixer, on the board, I've limited the drums to just a stereo bus. And why do I do that? Because I like limitations. Because I'm giving myself 16 channels on the console to mix in and no more than that. We're making a rock and roll record here, people. We're not launching a spaceship. Here's our kick. Snare. Front of the kit mic, front mic. Gives a little more of that sub frequency. And overhead, which gives us a little more shimmer. The full picture of the kit is this. And into that, some stereo drum track, I'll add their tambourine. That's a heavy beat, right? That's a sick. While I have the drums EQ'd in our DAW, in Pro Tools, they're EQ'd slightly. They are being bussed to a stereo bus compressor. So we have basically a Neve 33609, kind of squashing the drums just a little bit, keeping things in place a bit. And you'll hear, I'll solo the drum track out. So all that compressor is doing is kind of bringing up some of the low stuff, bringing down some of the higher dynamic stuff, and kind of evening the drum track out so it sits in the mix in a perfect place. Then we're going to add our, that might have been Zach on that.
Yeah, did you hear that?
Yeah. We just heard our drummer singing as he was playing the drums, so that made its way into the track. That's a little Easter egg for people that hear it. Let's go. That's Oscar Albus Rodriguez playing bass, and the bass is being EQ'd digitally. So I'm just kind of rolling off some of the deep low end on the bass and boosting some of the mid so it really sits in the mix in a nice way. Then I have the bass hitting the distressor, again, to add a little bit of color, but also to kind of level it out in the mix. There he is. Rhythm section. Next, we add our acoustic guitars. And for a lot of the track, the acoustic guitars are stereo spread. It's a common trick. Jeff Lynne does that all the time. And in this track, I think it really works. So you have these choruses in the song where you have two acoustic guitars kind of stereo spread. Now on their own, they sound really thin, because I've taken out a lot of the low end in the acoustic guitars. But in context of the mix, you don't want that low end in the acoustic guitars because it's going to interfere with all the bass stuff. So together, acoustic guitars, drums, and bass, you're really going to get a sense of the track starting to come to life here. Now we're going to add our electric guitar. And the electric guitar was recorded as an overdub. And it was recorded through a Princeton amp with probably a little bit of slapback on it, but I've just added some more slapback. And we're going to show you how to do that later. Just a beautiful hillbilly rhythm that he's playing. Little Chet in there. A rockabilly. And I have the electric guitar, again, EQ'd digitally. So this is what it sounds like with EQ. Without it. So the EQ is brightening it up. It's making it pop in the mix. Now, the funny thing is, on its own, any of these instruments, electric guitar, acoustic guitar, when you take them on their own and you solo them, You say, man, that guitar sounds really thin. You wouldn't want that to be soloed. You wouldn't want that to be the basis of a record. But in context, in the mix, and you're going to hear how it works really well with everything else, that electric guitar, it ain't thin at all. In fact, it sounds super fat. Moving on, there is a keyboard in here. There is a keyboard. This Wurlitzer played by me live when we tracked with drums, bass, and keys. That's how we built the track. And again, I've EQ'd it to get some of the low end out so it doesn't interfere with the bass, the kick, or any of that stuff. Here is it with the EQ. Without it, darker. A little brighter here with it. And all that kind of growl was a choice. So we pushed the preamp with the Whirly. We wanted the Whirly to kind of really have that harmonic kind of push to it. And that was a creative choice. Okay, that's our band. Now we add a little garnish. Ribbon mic on trumpet, figure 8 pattern on that, and a dynamic mic on the bell of the saxophone, of the tenor saxophone. So the horns are playing the traditional part, really. And higher.
Now don't you ever be sad, lean on me when times are bad.
Now in that vocal track you're going to hear the headphone bleed of when I recorded it, because I tend to monitor pretty loudly, or I take an ear off so I can hear my voice in the room. But you're also going to hear my body moving. I mean, the track's actually pretty noisy. I mean, if we listen to it.
When times are bad, when the day comes and you're down,
A lot of breath.
in a river of trouble, about to drown, just hold on.
I think all that stuff's cool. That's what makes a recording sound human. So I leave all that stuff in. I leave all the breaths in. I leave all of the background noise in. My favorite records have some of the weirdest stuff on them, so why not leave it in? Why make it sound like it's recorded in an air vacuum? The vocal is EQ'd a little bit, so I have everything rolled off below 100 on the vocal, down, and it's hitting the Teletronics LA2A, the classic vocal compressor, an opto compressor. Talk about a vocal chain. We did a U67 into a Neve preamp, into an LA2A, and that's all you need right there. Now we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna add a harmony vocal on these choruses.
Hold on, 'cause I'm coming. Hold on, I'm coming.
We get a little creative, and we're going to use the Sun Records technique of tape slapback to the vocals.
Now don't you ever be sad, lean on me when times are bad, when the day comes
Without slap,
and you're down
with slap.
in a river of trouble.
Tape slapback. What are we doing here? We're sending the vocal track, my vocal take, to the tape machine, and the tape machine is feeding back into the digital recorder. So in effect, the tape machine is delayed, and we're hearing that delay, and it sounds like this.
You don't have to suffer, mama, 'cause I'm near. Just hold on, I'm coming. Hold on, I'm coming. Hold on.
And I'm mimicking the speed that would have been at Sun Records in the 1950s. So it's a slower tape speed. It's not as quick and hi-fi as 30 IPS. We're hitting 15 IPS, so 15 inches per second on this tape reel. Gives us a nice slow slapback.
Quick reaction, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So in this hybrid mixing technique, Pro Tools in effect functions as our tape machine. So Pro Tools is playing back the track, and it's feeding into our mixer. You can come over here. You can come over here. Let's play the track. Everything is laid out for me here. And this is our 2 bus. So our stereo mix is being sent back into Pro Tools, and that's how we're printing the track. So in effect, Pro Tools is sending the tracks to the console. The console is sending the tracks through its stereo bus back into Pro Tools. That's hybrid mixing. And we have the flexibility of adding the EQ section from the console if we want to do any aux sends to verb, if we want to do any inserts from outboard gear, which I'm certainly doing on this track. I think it's the best of both worlds, and that's how I do things. Thanks for watching another episode of No Room for Yesterday. If you enjoyed it, you have to like, you gotta comment, and you most certainly have to subscribe. We'll see you next week.